Good evening and Happy New Year. The news gang is here, and tonight Maraga's exit, the interview and a prayer. Also on the show, the tribe, the wheelbarrow and a city in the dark. And it's only the 14th of January. Plus, Uganda's wine, Museveni and the power. Who or what will carry the day? On the punchline, Gashuri has a 2021 wish, but you need to fasten your belts. Yvonne takes on the many names and faces of the tribe. Kaikai looks back into the future of Uganda. Just who will win the presidential election of 2016? Yes, that's right. And on the angle, the shedding off of old skins and the brand new packages of our good old politicians. Jamila is on a short break, and the sign language gangster tonight is Wilson Mushora. Okay, let's start the show now. And ladies and gentlemen, yeah, I almost said ladies, but yeah, Jamila is somewhere on a break, but we'll have her back. So, David Maraga, we really have to start there, Yvonne. I mean, this is the first time he's really speaking in the manner that he's doing, but also the first interview after he left office just about 3 days ago. What would you say struck you the most? One, about the interview, but also about Maraga's tenure as the second Chief Justice under the 2010 Constitution.
Well, I think it was in his appointment. I guess it was different from Willie Mutunga, who was sort of an outsider from the system, and he had risen through the ranks and was known to be, conservative. And if you recall, even during his vetting, he was very clear about, his principles, his values, and his faith, and that shone through. I mean, I think everything we saw about him during the vetting, we saw what we got with the retired Chief Justice. But I think there were a couple of things that were interesting from the conversation that you had with him, particularly on, the servers, how they had to sequester themselves. And it was just interesting to hear from his side regarding the 41 judges who were to be appointed, that with the information that was coming in, including from the NIS, was never shared even with him in a confidential manner, who was the chair of the JSC and was leading the whole vetting and nomination exercise for the judges, that even he, to date, does not know what supposed information or allegations that the National Intelligence Service, or the issues and concerns that the National Intelligence Service had raised with any, some, all, 1, 2, 3 of the 41 candidates for those various positions across the judiciary, that even he doesn't know that to date. That's what struck me as extremely interesting. And, for the president, who claims to know what those allegations are, but doesn't say who he has an issue with, and has not to date made any effort to raise some of those issues, particularly because many of those candidates are serving, judges, across the judiciary. That, for me, is what stood out.
Francis?
Yes, I take it from where Yvonne has left. And Happy New Year to our viewers. I still think that he set the right pace for judicial independence. That at least with him in office, you were sure that whatever decision came from the judiciary, whether you agreed with it or you didn't agree with it, it had some semblance of independence. And I think it's a good place to be for his successor, that whoever succeeds him has an idea about what to do in terms of judicial independence, because ultimately, at the end of the day, the judiciary is the escape route for all Kenyans. When ordinary citizens have a beef with the executive or with parliament, and when the other two arms of government have issues with each other, the safe place to be and to seek solace is in the judiciary. So a judiciary that is interfered with by the executive or by parliament will not be a good judiciary for all of us. Many things can happen, many things can be said, but a good judiciary, an independent judiciary, a well-funded judiciary is a good thing for the entire nation. Not to take away the fact that that judiciary also must be accountable. So much as we say the judiciary should be independent, it should also be transparent, accountable, and in a way that everybody feels, whether you have gotten what you're looking for or didn't get it, you feel that justice has been done. I still feel that today in that interview, he came out even more clearly in terms of what he thought about the revisit statement, because every so often we kept hearing about that revisit slogan, and whatever happened, be it the budget cuts, be it failure to appoint the 41 judges, you always saw that revisit slogan somewhere. And today I think it is the first time that he has clearly come out to say what he thought about this revisiting thing is. Obviously now attention shifting to the choice of his successor. It will be a very interesting process, bearing in mind that it is on the eve of a general election, and from what we see, it may likely be a very contested election. So a Chief Justice and another judge in the Supreme Court, because there's a vacancy as a result of the retirement of Justice Ojwang, you look at the numbers and you will see a very political process in terms of appointing Maraga's successor.
And it's quite staggering also what he revealed about, what was really a total breakdown between himself and the President of the Republic, because that for me was quite striking, considering that there were so many things that needed to happen between the judiciary and the executive. And here you have the heads of these two very consequential arms of government literally not talking to each other. I mean, he essentially said that you know what, at some point before this September 1 decision, the communication lines were open, and after that something happened, so much so that it reduced to a trickle, and then eventually really there wasn't anything going on. But I think also for me, what he seemed to have done was to raise the bar in terms of the person who comes, and in a sense just described what this person is walking into. Two things he mentioned: one, the whole question of the judiciary fund, which he says has never been operationalized, and also the question of disobedience of court orders. So in a sense, the person who is coming in is not coming in to basically just hit the ground running, but is coming in to continue a certain struggle that David Maraga has been on, and he says his court has been on, to get true independence of the judiciary, both in terms of their financial independence and also the authority that they have, that whatever decisions they make will be obeyed by whoever it is leaders. I found those quite interesting as he defined the space in which the new person is coming into. But also I wonder what your take would be in terms of his overall tenure as someone who's observed this and seen many justices before.
I think, Joe, tonight, those who underrated Chief Justice David Maraga, and there are a lot of them, and I want to take you back to the time he was being vetted for this position. He wasn't really projected as the strongest candidate for the position of Chief Justice. And when he was appointed, I remember there were those who said he was a choice of the power circles because he is weak. I think Maraga
insider,
Maraga is, and an insider, he'll come in and do what the state does. Maraga has confounded all that. He has shocked them. I think the last 4 years have been a roller coaster for those who expected a Chief Justice that will play ball. He has done a lot of things that will live forever. You know, the beauty of jurisprudence and the beauty of presidents is it doesn't retire. Justice Maraga is retired, but his decisions will never retire. And the key one is that of the 2017 presidential election petition whose ruling was delivered on the 1st of September, or September 11 for those who felt very aggrieved by the decision. And it is a landmark decision, a decision that has already been cited in the nullification of the elections in Malawi. Only the second country to do that, and the first one to do that on the footsteps of the Kenyan Supreme Court. I want to say one more thing about the personality. Joe, when you interviewed this man and you look at him, he's a man at peace, completely. We've seen people who retire and the first thing they do is, how will I be safe?
Yeah.
Where will I hide my face? Maraga is going to be a much sought after speaker in the speaking circuits. He started yesterday and he had a good one at the COG. And there's something else that is associated with him. And this is straight talk. Saying what is in his mind.
Regardless.
Yep. You go and ujipange with
There's so
it.
much conviction. You know, that's the thing you see about him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quiet, firm.
And he has this wry smile. I don't know, is that a smile or it attends to his utterances. And I remember when we were watching the September 1st decision, when he reached that bit where he said, fear of God.
Yes.
And fidelity to the
Constitution, yes.
I said fear of God, when you invoke that, that means this decision can only go one way.
Yeah,
the other decision doesn't require the fear of God. And Maraga went that way. So I think he's going to be remembered for a lot of things, but more importantly, for the zero gap between what he believes in and how he acts. Whether as a judge or as a person. Just one more thing that will be notable. Today, Joe, there's something seismic he was saying. And I was just saying, suppose he was still in the bench. Did he just say, you can impeach the president?
Or ought to have.
Ought to have. By now.
Actually, in a sense, he was wondering why it has not happened.
Yes, because here is a stickler to procedure and process. Do the right thing. This was a challenge to Parliament, because what Maraga is also emerging as is a champion of the principle of separation of power. He's just reminding Parliament that, you know, you also didn't know that you had the power to do that. You think the judiciary shocked the country in 2017? You can do your own bit of shocking by doing your duty of impeaching a president that is not adhering to the law. So I think we've not had the last of Maraga. We're going to hear a lot from him. But more importantly also, he has created a frame within which the next Chief Justice must operate. It's a standard, it's a bar that the next Chief Justice must live by.
And also throwing some very interesting ideas about the BBI with particular regard to issues that touch on the judiciary, especially with the issue of the judiciary ombudsman, and you know, explaining clearly from his perspective why he thinks this is going to be a potential threat to the independence of the judiciary. And I think that's going to be fodder for quite some conversations in the next couple of days. Yeah. But we need to take a break, because when we return, we're going to be taking on the state of politics. Quite a number of things happening, letters left, right and center. And then there was that remark in Molulu, if that is the logic, hata mimi naweza kusema. And we are going to look at that after the break.